50% of people globally against COVID-19 by the end of the year. Elsewhere, 12 workers are rescued from a flooded coal mine in northern China's Jiangxi province. Well, that's it and much more. I am Aissatou Keita. Well, it's great to have you with us. We begin this edition with the Vice Presidency because a high-powered delegation, Gambian delegation led by the Vice President, Dr. Aissatou Toure, has arrived in the Turkish capital city of Istanbul ahead of the third Turkey-Africa Partnership Summit to be hosted by President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. The Vice Commerce currently hosts 341 companies. Famara Baji is with the delegation and he filed in this report.
A day before the high-level summit, the Vice President embarked on a host of official engagements in Turkey, starting with a visit to the Techno Park, where several company heads presented their activities and products they manufacture before the Gambian delegation. The Vice President assured the Gambia's commitment towards all cooperation ventures, saying a lot of lessons will be drawn from the engagement.
What we have seen today is a good example. This shows the level of engagement and the organization and putting things together so that it becomes a package that shows the different technological advancements and the type of projects that are supposed to be done. And it is an incubation center that brings together, and you have seen the progress. I think it's a big lesson for us as we move towards creating jobs for our young people and also engaging with our development initiative. We learn from this experience, and those that are science inclined and technologically inclined to move the Gambia forward, because the world is global and we cannot afford to be left behind. So this is a good example.
The Turkey-Africa Summit offers great opportunities to boost trade among member nations such as the Gambia, which is looking to harness more partnerships for growth. The Gambia's trade minister said he will closely work with the Turkish companies and potential investors for possible future cooperation in the trade sector.
The most important takeaway from this is the confidence it can give us as a developing country to also launch such a technopark to serve as an incubation center to our growing technology companies. Gambia has similarities with Turkey in the sense that we are embedded into the global ecosystems, and we have a good level of cooperation and the skills and knowledge transfer that a collaboration with the Technopark Istanbul will generate, will enable us to usher in the level of technology transfer that we expect we can benefit. So to take it to the next level, we would want to work with Istanbul Technopark to have a joint cooperation, which will be milestone driven, so that we can also replicate such center in the Republic of the Gambia.
With a few hours to the high-level Turkey-Africa Partnership Summit, Vice President Toure shared her expectation of the event.
We are that is moving the various countries together. So this meeting tomorrow is going to be one example. And I've come with a high-level delegation. You have different ministries coming, and the issues that are going to be discussed are developmental. And this is also, it resonates with the National Development Plan of the Gambia and the vision of His Excellency, President Barrow. So I'm very, very, very optimistic, and I think it falls in line with the vision of His Excellency, President Barrow.
Famara Baji, GRTS News.
Meanwhile, the Chinese ambassador to the Gambia, Ma Jianxun, on Wednesday handed over completion certificates of China aid roads and bridge projects in the Upper River region to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, International Cooperation and Gambians abroad, Mamadou Tangara. Aissatou Jata Gassama witnessed the signing ceremony and she prepared this report.
The signing of the certificate marks the official handing over of the project from the government of the People's Republic of China to the Gambia government, which also indicates another historic and meaningful development in the consolidation of the bilateral relation between the two countries. The Chinese ambassador to the Gambia, Ma Jianxun, said the infrastructural development projects was a grant from his government, which includes 51-kilometer asphalt routes extending from Basse to Koina through Fatoto, and 2 major bridges constructed in Basse and Fatoto.
The project commenced in December 2018 and completed in September 2021. On October 9th, His Excellency President Adam Barrow attended the inauguration and opening ceremony of the road and bridge project in person. His Excellency President Adam Barrow spoke highly of the top quality of the project and the close cooperation between China and Gambia.
Ambassador Majan Chun dilated on the China and Africa relations, noting the shared cultural diversity, development aid, as well as supporting socio-economic sector in the advancement of the continent. He assured China's support to the attainment of the Africa's development agenda.
At the 8th Ministerial Conference of the FOCAC, which was held in Dakar last month, His Excellency, the Chinese President Xi Jinping, summarized the everlasting spirit of China-Africa friendship and cooperation forged between the two sides, which features sincere friendship and equality, win-win for mutual benefit and common development, fairness and justice, and progress with the times and openness and inclusiveness. His Excellency President Xi Jinping also announced that China and Africa will jointly implement the 9 programs covering a wide range of areas, including health, poverty reduction, agriculture, trade promotion, and so on.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mamadou Tangara, reaffirmed government's commitment to consolidate the gains registered between the two countries by working with the Chinese ambassador to the Gambia.
I would like to seize this opportunity on behalf of His Excellency Adam Barrow, President of the Republic of the Gambia, to convey his gratitude to President Xi Jinping, President of the People's Republic of China, to the entire Chinese government and people for the support that you've been giving to the Gambia. Not only to the Gambia, but to Africa. We've seen in this very difficult period of pandemic, China has proven once again that China is a reliable, dependable, and true friend of Africa, and of the Gambia in particular. We want to convey our appreciation and reiterate our commitment to working closely with the People's Republic of China.
China is willing to work with African countries, including the Gambia, to fully implement their commitments through the outcome of the 8th Ministerial Conference of the FOCAC, which aims to deepen pragmatic cooperation in various fields to promote the building of a closer community of shared future for China-Africa and China-Gambia. For the news, I am Aissatou Jatta Gassama.
The Supreme Court of the Gambia on Friday heard the election petition filed by the opposition United Democratic Party against President Adama Barrow and the Independent Electoral Commission as first and second respondents respectively. The United Democratic Party is challenging the results of the just concluded December 4th presidential election, in which the electoral body declared Adama Barrow as winner. Lawyers representing Adama Barrow, led by lawyer Sheriff Tembadu, indulged the court to give them time to advise themselves on the amended petition, while attorneys for the electoral body, lawyers Keba Sanyang and Malik Jallo, also appealed for time to respond to the motion. The Chief Justice Hassan B. Jallo, who led the Supreme Court panel, unanimously granted 5 days to the respondent before adjourning the matter. In a bid to expedite the trial within 30 days, the Chief Justice urged the parties to meet in his chambers on Monday to set a roadmap for the hearing of the case. The matter was subsequently adjourned to Monday for the chamber hearings and on Tuesday to hear the motion filed by the defense team representing President-elect Adama Barrow as first respondent who are asking for the dismissal of the entire case. Now, the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Natural Resources and the World Food Programme on Wednesday signed a Memorandum of Understanding on Rural Climate Adaptation and Integrated Resilience. The $10 million project aims to promote climate adaptation by enhancing adaptive capacities of rural populations in the Gambia through support to initiate diversified livelihoods in the next 5 years. Khadija Tujuara.
Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Natural Resources and the World Food Programme WFP on Wednesday signed a Memorandum of Understanding. The $10 million project aims to promote rural integrated climate adaptation and resilience, enhances adaptive capacity of rural population in the Gambia through support to climate resilient and diversified livelihood in the next 5 years. Speaking during the signing ceremony, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Natural Resources, Momodumbai Jabang, said the project will focus on climate change adaptation activities to address the climate risks and vulnerabilities and also address the interface between climate change, agriculture, and food security.
The project is going to be funded to the tune of $10 million, grant for 5 years, beginning March next year to 2027, and is going to focus mainly on adaptation, climate risk management, and market access. Again, these are all areas that will help us achieve our NDC ambitions in the short to medium term. It is well aligned with our blueprints, namely the National Adaptation Program of Action, the NAPA, the SPCR, that is the Strategic Program for Climate Resilience, that's our investment blueprint, the Nationally Appropriate Mitigation Actions, the NAMA, the nationally determined contribution itself, of course, the Climate Integrated Agriculture and Natural Resources Policy, and the Gambia Gender and Women Empowerment policies. And so this project is fully aligned with all those documents, as I indicated.
WFP representative added that the project is to enhance adaptive capacity of rural population in the Gambia through support to climate resilient and diversified livelihood.
I look forward to the upcoming partnership between MECNAR and WFP brought together by this MOU, and hope to engage further with the ministry in the future and its staff in bringing additional projects to the Gambia and work together to fight against the impact of climate change to the country and its citizens. I also wish to commend the Gambia on being the only country in the world which is Paris climate compatible, with plans for keeping to the goal of limiting global heating to 1.5 Celsius degree above pre-industrial level by 2100.
Reporting for GRTS News, I am Khadija Tujuara.
The Directorate of Health Promotion and Education under the Ministry of Health on Friday held a media briefing in Kotu to inform the population on the second mass COVID-19 vaccination campaign expected to be a door-to-door exercise. Sena Wijan has the details.
Speaking at the press briefing, the Deputy Director Expanded Program for Immunization, Main Jai, says that from March 2021 to date, the national vaccination rate in the country is at 14.7%, which is very low. Deputizing the Director of Health Promotion, Jibril Gando, explained the modalities put in place for the upcoming immunization exercise.
We are about to roll a national COVID vaccination campaign within the most densely populated regions in the Gambia, that is Western Region 1 and 2. But normally you will call it the West Coast region. But for the Ministry of Health, it is divided into two, so we call it the Western 1 and Western 2 regions. And these regions, when you say Western 1, it covers from Banjul up to Yundum, and then from Busumbala, Farato, up to Kallaji, that is part of Western 2. So it is like the campaign, it is going to cover from Banjul up to Kallaji. You can know exactly the locations that we are targeting. That's why we call you, the media, to make sure that you put the message across on our behalf that everybody needs to be protected against this new wave that is coming. And the only means of protection that is, if not 100%, but 90% guaranteed, is the vaccination.
Since the commencement of the COVID-19 vaccination, people are still reluctant to take the vaccine. This has raised concerns among health experts and authorities, thereby urging the population to get vaccinated to improve the immune system. Program Manager at Expanded Program for Immunization, EPI, Sidat Fofana, assured the safety of the vaccine.
We have to continue to cry to the population. Now the rumors are dying. The rumors are dying because they said the false cannot fight with the truth. The false is dying away. So we are facing the reality now. The reality now, people who took, they have diabetes, they are going about their business, they have hypertension, they have even terrible chronic conditions. But because they have been vaccinated, they are leading their normal lives. We must try to prevent ourselves, prevent the population, come together as a nation, continue with our normal lives. That's the only way. Let us take the vaccine.
The communications officer of the EPI, Ajay Kande, gave details of the vaccinated people since the start of the campaign.
So we have a lot to do, and we have a host of, people that we need to convince. But our strategy this time around, we want an additional strategy, which is the house to house, that we are going to employ on Western 1 and Western 2. We have over 60% of the total population in the Gambia here, resident here. And we know most of them are also engaged. Right now, if you go to homes, you will hardly find people in their homes. So this is why we want also to start it on a weekend, so that most of the people there will not be going out. We will also target public areas like markets, ferry crossing areas, schools.
The mass countrywide vaccination will commence on Saturday, 17th December, and for the Western 1 and Western 2 regions, the exercise will be done from house-to-house basis. Sainabu Jane for GRTS News.
The 5th Economic Ghanaian contingent in the Gambia Friday presented a newly renovated Arabic school in Bara and learning materials to the Munyagen Basic Cycle School in the North Bank region. The donation, as we hear in this report, is part of efforts to strengthen the civil-military cooperation program of the Ghanaian contingent serving under the Economic Mission in the Gambia. This story was prepared by Usman Balde.
The civil-military cooperation has been crucial in helping military units address some community needs in their areas of deployment, enhancing the relationship between soldiers and locals. The presence of the ECOWAS forces in the country is not only meant to nurture peace and stability, but to also address the needs of communities through projects and humanitarian, strengthening civil-military cooperation.
Since our inception in the Gambia, Bara to be specific, we identified some shortfalls in the educational sector that were similar to the challenges in the educational sector in Ghana. We therefore identified with the needs of the schools in general and peoples in particular, hence the need to help. Therefore, as friends of the good people of Bara and its environs, ECOMI Gankoi 5 set up a committee to identify suitable projects to be undertaken as part of our CIMIC activities. The committee selected the Madrasa Asha Sharif School for renovation and donation of student decks for the pupils, who hitherto sat on long benches without tables to write on. It was also observed that the school structure was in a deplorable state, making it inconvenient for effective learning to take place. One could imagine the difficulty the peoples were going through in such a situation. Gankoi also procured educational materials to be donated to the Mohajin Basic Cycle School.
The gesture, according to the village development chairman, is a viable milestone that will enhance children's education after renovation of the community school by Ghanaian soldiers residing in Bara.
It enhances the education of the children. It's indicative how they're reacting. They're happy for the environment. And as I understood, your movements have been directed towards education, like the other schools you're supporting. And then this place, this is the way development persists. Because if people are endowed with knowledge, proper environment, this kind of development in our community. On behalf of the Alcalo and then the entire community, we are saying thank you.
Head of Madrasa at the Ashar Sharif School in Bara, Aliu Badarajan, hailed the donors for improving their school to an advanced level after years of struggle with inadequate facilities. After receiving the school materials at the Munyagen Basic Cycle School, teachers and village residents called for more assistance from the Ghanaian contingent to enhance their lessons and school infrastructure.
This would carve another milestone in improving standard, quality and accessible education for all as enshrined in the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education MOPSI Education Policy 2015-2031. Furthermore, we are also grateful to receive these imperative learning materials, as this would have a great impact on the students' education, thereby enabling them effect further research. We have substantially acknowledged and recognized your humanitarian gesture and assuring you that the donated materials would be utilized or judiciously utilized and for its intended purpose, as your office desires. Moreover, as your effort is not only limited to rendering services in promoting or boosting the economy and strengthening security, thereby maintaining peace and stability in the country, but also rendering services to the most needed support sector, which is the education sector.
Lieutenant Colonel Andrew Awuni outlined how they identified and supported the two schools in North Bank region.
There were shortage in the form of textbooks. So that was the problem they identified here. So we have brought some few textbooks here to give to you so that you can have textbooks on your own. It's not enough. We are so open to bring more textbooks for you so that every child will have a textbook here and we'll have all students having to be given the same attention with regards to the textbooks here so that they can learn and become great leaders of our continent. I know these beautiful kids here will grow up to become very important leaders and serve Mother Africa. And I want to say that take your studies very importantly, seriously, and then also make sure you obey authorities.
These projects are expected to impact positively on students and further enrich the cordial relationship between the Gambia and Ghana. For GRT's News, this is Aissatou Keita. Beikanyang, a local non-governmental organization, Friday staged an educative session for young people commemorating International Human Rights Day under the theme, The Role of Young People in Post-Electoral Violence. Human rights advocates and civic educationists attended the event at Masru Senior Secondary School in Old Yundum. Ibrahim Jallo has the details.
The role of young people in mitigating post-electoral violence was the theme for the commemoration of International Human Rights by Beikanyang, a local NGO which advocates for equality and social justice. Mfamara Jaune is the executive director of the organization.
This is an organization that is calling for equality with regards to rights. And you know, advocating for the respect of rights comes with a lot of challenges. So the challenges are enormous, but our achievements are something that we are proud of. And we can confidently say that we don't regret establishing an indigenous organization like ours that is definitely transforming the lives and the livelihoods of the Gambian people.
He challenged young people to embrace peace at all times in charting a way forward. He advised young people to desist from political sentiments, develop positive minds, and uphold the values of democracy and human rights for national interests.
So we thought it's important that we capitalize on this very important celebration to engage young people on the need to maintain peace and order and stability in the country, and ensure that the issues of post-election violence is not something that will record in this country in a large scale.
Young people, including students and volunteers, gathered for a knowledge-sharing exercise regarding human rights and peace, taking note from experts in the domain. Martida Mendy, Deputy Chairperson of the National Human Rights Commission, engaged participants in an interactive session on key human rights elements, such as definitions of human rights terms, causes, preventive mechanisms, and consequences of human rights violations in society. Some of the participants shared their experiences of the event with GRTS.
I have learned a lot, much especially the political violence, because we all know political violence is something that can be devastating to people's life and properties in general, and can even undermine the peace and integrity of a state. So far so good. What I have learned is that how to make sure that we keep political violence. What are the steps and the procedures that we can take to make sure that we will be able to find solution, to prevent people engaging in any form of political sentiments, which can be in a form of hate speech, physical violence, which can really bring a disturbance into the peace and integrity of people.
We are taught what are human rights, and we know what human rights are. About this election, post-election violence, and then pre-election, we had pre-election violence, election violence, and now post-election. Now pre-election is gone, election is gone. What we have to do is to sustain ourselves from violence, because if we know that if there is no peace, there is nothing like humanity in this life.
The event ended with a message of love and unity for posterity. Ibrahim Jallo, GRTS News.
GRTS News with me, Aisa Tukated. International news is up next. Do stay. Well, a look at another news making headline around the world, starting off with the COVID-19 pandemic, because 98 countries have yet to meet the World Health Organization target to vaccinate 40% of the people globally by the end of the year. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres says the world cannot defeat the coronavirus pandemic in an uncoordinated way. More in the CGTN report.
It is only days away from the global deadline to vaccinate 40% of people. Yet Africa has the lowest share of the population that is fully vaccinated, at just 7% according to the Africa CDC. This is a scenario that has the UN Secretary General concerned.
At current rates, Africa will not meet the 70% threshold until August 2024. So vaccine inequity is giving variants a free pass to run wild, ravaging the health of people and economies in every corner of the globe. We cannot defeat the pandemic in an uncoordinated way.
According to Guterres, vaccines alone will not eradicate the pandemic.
Vaccines are averting hospitalization and deaths for the majority who get them and slowing the spread. But transmissions show no sign of letting up. And this is driven by vaccine inequity, hesitancy, and complacency.
The Secretary General also denounced lopsided recovery efforts that are accelerating inequalities and increasing stresses on economies and societies.
Defaults will become inevitable for lower-income countries that already bear much higher borrowing costs. And the need to service an ever-mounting and more expensive debt will leave developing countries with little fiscal space for recovery, job creation, climate action, reimagining education and reskilling and training workers, and so much more. It is time to clearly assume the need for reform of the international financial system.
The United Nations has termed the coronavirus pandemic as more than a health crisis. vaccine and financial inequalities have only gone to expose what needs to be done. Joy Kiruki Juma, CGTN.
Moving on, we turn to South Sudan, which continues to deal with the devastating floods in Unity State. Authorities say flooding has left over 90% of the population homeless. The entire population of Unity State currently depends on food aid. Floods have also washed away crops, heavily impacting livelihoods. Aid agencies are calling for more support in efforts to mitigate the devastation. CGTN's Patrick Oyet has the details.
Just returned to Juba, and the situation in Bentiu is that right now Bentiu does not look like a place that people used to stay in. What you see there is like Bentiu is an island in the middle of an ocean, because everywhere there is water, and they struggle to keep the water away from the few camps that have been set up to keep those displaced. Is an everyday work. The dikes have been built to try to block the water. The dikes some are as tall as I am, some are even taller than me, to prevent the water from breaking into where people are really staying. Crops are washed away, livestock are washed away. People who have survived have just come to the displaced centers with nothing in their hands. The only thing they have is fish and the food that they get from aid agencies, and then life is really very difficult for anyone there. They are trapped. There is no road transport anymore. The airport is surrounded by water, and the only means of transport is just the canoes that people move within the areas that they used to call home, but now is all in water.
And Patrick, from what you saw, how are the government and its partners managing the situation?
Yeah, first of all, the monitoring of the water levels is an everyday job, 24/7. The government, and especially the United Nations mission in South Sudan, is moving also all over the place, trying to really monitor the water levels, because occasionally the dikes break and then they have to be filled immediately so that the water doesn't overrun the town. The town is just remaining very small, and so that is one thing they are doing to make sure that the water doesn't break into where people are, and also to keep the airport at least functioning, because the water has surrounded the airport. It's just actually at the airport, just blocked by the dikes. So the UN agencies are there trying to always continue heaping more soil to block the water from coming. And the worst thing is that the levels continue to rise. And then also, there is no rain. This water is just coming from where the local people there cannot tell you where the water is coming from, but it just keeps coming. So that's one thing that the aid agencies are doing. Another thing is aid agencies like UNICEF, they are providing mobile schools where the displaced are. They put the tents, try to build some makeshift classrooms. If the place is overrun by water, they move the tent to another place. So, and also providing the food to the children and women who are there. So things are really difficult there, and the government and aid agencies are trying, but they're also crying for more help. They're saying they need more support in order to support the displaced people who have run because of.
Elsewhere, Chinese authorities say 12 people have been lifted after being trapped underground for over 30 hours. The rescue works at a coal mine in northern China's Jiangxi. Authorities believe 21 of them were stranded when flooding occurred on Wednesday night. The first person was lifted at 2 p.m. local time. CGTN's Wang Mengji reports from the mining site.
Very excited and very exciting. The trapped miners are rescued, and the rescue efforts are still on the way for other miners who have been trapped in a flooded coal mine for over 30 hours in North China's Shanxi province. The local authorities said the rescuers have connected the trapped workers this morning. About 400 rescuers have been working around the clock to get them up. A police I've talked earlier told me that the timely rescue operation is a main reason why this time the trapped workers can be connected so soon, and one of them are lifted on right now. The city government set up an emergency rescue headquarters after the accident and has carried out the rescue work together with the local mine rescue team and firefighters. two pumps begun to drain water, and the water level has begun to drop. And because this is a illegal mine, that the site is hidden from the fences. So it's all unclear thing about the coal mine structure and the composition, which multiplies the difficulties for rescue work. And as you can hear beside me, the emergency cars are carrying the lifted rescuers here. So we're still waiting for other trapped workers who can be lifted at this moment.
While you're watching us live from Banjul, and a quick recap of our top stories before we take leave of you. A high-powered Gambian delegation led by the Vice President, Dr. Aissatou Touré, has arrived in the Turkish capital city of Istanbul ahead of the 3rd Turkey-Africa Partnership Summit. The Chinese ambassador to the Gambia, Ma Jianjun, has handed over completion certificates of China aid roads and bridge projects in the Upper River region to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. The Supreme Court of the Gambia has heard the election. Away from home, 98 countries are yet to meet the World Health Organization's target to vaccinate 40% of the people globally against COVID-19 by the end of the year. Elsewhere, 12 workers have been rescued from a flooded coal mine in northern China's Jiangxi province. Well, that was all we had time for in today's edition of GRTS News. From me and the entire news team, we want to thank you for the pleasure of your company. Do join me again tomorrow morning for a special edition of the AM show with Fatu Elika Mulushi as GRTS clocks 26. Do have a pleasant night.
Yaay buur suma xol ak suma yaay